We now profess our faith as we say, we believe in one God.
On the corner of Boulevard and Auburn Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia, just across from the Martin Luther King Jr. Center, is Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church, a fortress that has stood on this corner for nearly a century. The church was established in 1912 by Father Ignatius Lissner, a missionary priest of the Society of African Missions, and funded by Catherine Drexel, a Philadelphia heiress who donated over $20 million starting churches and schools, and the founder of the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament.
Well, this is home for me. Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic School and Catholic Church.
Those who have a long association with this church community have the connection, have a sense of belonging and identity, partly because that was the way to survive. Lourdes has been a small Catholic community and frankly was established because of segregation, and so the connections beyond Lourdes to other Catholic communities, other Catholic parishes weren't that strong because it was a whole separate situation. So I think part of it was the notion of identity and survival and a sense of we're going to remain strong within this community because there are considerable obstacles outside the community. Father Ignatius Lissner was the priest who came up from Savannah to Atlanta, felt there was a need for a Catholic presence in the African American community. So worked to buy this property that we're on, and then sought the financial support of Catherine Drexel to build the building that we're in presently. Through the years, Catherine Drexel's religious community, the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament, were the faculty for Our Lady of Lourdes School, and so she, if not annually, but at least periodically, was visiting here. And there are very few Catholic parishes in the United States that can say, oh, we were founded by a canonized saint.
It is at Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic School where many of Atlanta's African American parents brought their children for what they believed was the best education.
When I was a student here in elementary school, there were Catholic schools in the city, but they were not available to African American children. This was the first and only, at that time, black Catholic school founded by the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. And this was the school of choice. The Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament were dedicated to the education of what they used to call Indian and colored children. So they opened schools on Indian reservations and also in African American communities. Because this was the best and only place for black children to go, usually other than public school, we got to make friendships and bonds that have carried us through to this day. Because not only we were African American, but because we were Catholic, which at that time was an anomaly. You just didn't do those two things at the same time. So that kind of drew us closer together.
You know, Our Lady of Lourdes has helped develop some real significant black leadership in the city. It didn't just educate Catholics. One of my heroes, Mayor Maynard Jackson, was a student at Our Lady of Lourdes, and it's got a fine tradition.
I truly believe that Our Lady of Lourdes has a very, very special place in God's plan for the city of Atlanta. For many, many reasons, this church should have been gone a long time ago. but it has continued to grow. It's continued to serve. Its spirituality is known throughout the country. The people are not just spiritual people in church, they're spiritual people in the community and wherever they've gone. And this is not only the church members, but the people that have gone to the schools. They have gone on to continue the legacy of Lourdes.
It was here that Mrs. Elizabeth Bailey brought her 3 children to be educated. Her children loved the Catholic environment and became confirmed in the Catholic faith. However, it was apparent to many at Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church that one of the Bailey children, the youngest, Ricardo Xavier Bailey, had a special love for the church.
I would come into the church and I would go to the back room called the sacristy, and I would play like I was a priest. I would get dressed up and, bring my own little bread and a Kool-Aid and pretend like I was having mass, whenever I had a chance to get inside the church.
I had known Father Bailey since he was in 2nd grade. So I saw him both in school and in church. What really stuck in my mind all through these years is that he used to come to church with his mother and his sister on Saturday evening. We used to have a mass at 5 o'clock. I think they still do now. And when his mother had to work on Saturday, it happens that once in a while she had to work, Father Bailey would take 2 buses from their hubs, which was then in Decatur, to come to church by himself. When he was in 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, all the way through grade school, he did that. He would always come, sit in the 4th pew on my right-hand side, if I look the congregation, and he would never miss a word. I was very impressed to see this little kid doing that. You don't see little kids doing that very often. He never missed a service. And on Sunday morning, he used to spend most of the morning at home watching preachers on television, different ones. And he would come and repeat to me what the preacher said at the sermon.
We was always in the church. He was the altar boy. He loved doing it. I mean, when he got there, he made sure everything was in place, went in the back, got everything together, and he just loved, doing it. And I could really see him as being a priest.
I saw somebody who was focused and knew he wanted to be a part of whatever was going on inside this church in some way or other. At that time, I had no idea that he would end up being a priest, but I knew that he would always be close to the church because he was always here doing something at the church.
Ricky's desire to be a priest didn't interfere with him being an average teenager.
We grew up in Decatur over by Columbia High School. He grew up off of Glenwood and Line Street, and I grew up down McAfee, closer to Columbia High School. And it was just your average middle-class neighborhood that got drug infested by the time we was in our middle high school years, 10th, 11th grade. Our neighborhoods had went down, but we made it through. We did everything. We would shop. We'd go to the mall, hang out, football games, basketball games, concerts. I mean, we did it all, just regular teenage stuff.
He liked girls. He had girlfriends, brought them over to the house and everything. And sometimes I would think he would be with the same girl he showed up with. I said, oh, well, I'm just not in the loop.
He wasn't always Father Bailey. He wasn't walking around school quoting scriptures. Don't do that, and don't do that. He was a goof off. He was a cut up, so nobody saw it coming.
Ricky Bailey's interest in the priesthood heightened when Eugene A. Marino was installed in Atlanta as Archbishop, making headlines by becoming the first African-American Archbishop in U.S. history. After high school, he followed in his mentor's footsteps by enrolling in the Josephite Order while attending Xavier University, a school also founded by St. Catherine Drexel.
When Ricky saw him, that was just the eye-opener for him. And when Ricky went to Xavier, I think that was the particular order that he was in, and that was the one he was going to go into. And I think once he passed, Ricky decided to come here to the Atlanta Archdiocese and pursue, being a priest here in Atlanta. Even when the bad stuff came out, I think Ricky, just prayed on it and stuff. He wasn't going to judge or anything. That was up to God and whatever, Marino and whoever else. So, yeah. But I think when he died, that really hurt Ricky. But like I said, he came here to Atlanta to be with the Atlanta Archdiocese, and he's loved it ever since.
Josephite Fathers, the Society of St. Joseph, they're called. It's like a religious community. It's somewhat of a religious community, and they have dedicated their lives and their mission or their apostolate to serving the black community. And so the Josephites Fathers, you know, pretty much their parishes are with the black Catholic community. And he studied with that order of priests, and because, you know, their dedication and their, as I said, their apostolate to serve the black Catholic community.
At that time, I did not know who I was. I had a language, I had some type of understanding in the back of my mind, but I did not know who I was in my heart. And it wasn't until I truly embraced the mystery of the risen Jesus and the message that he calls all of us to have and to share that I began to understand who it was God called me to be and what it was that God wanted me to be. So it was at Xavier that my faith was watered. It was there that I learned how to pray, really. It was there that I learned how to accept. And this is a very big thing for any individual studying for ministry within the Roman Catholic Church, to accept people for who they are, to accept the way different people worship, to understand that Catholicism is a very big umbrella. And even though we are a universal church, we approach our worship of the Lord Jesus in many different ways.
Ricardo's path to the priesthood came to a crossroads when he took a year off to decide whether he would answer the call. He found a job and became engaged to be married, but his desire to become a priest did not relent, leading him to say goodbye to secular life and responding yes to the priesthood. He completed his studies at St. Mary's Seminary and University in Baltimore, Maryland, after which he returned to the Atlanta Archdiocese. On June 7, 2003, he became the only African American to be ordained a U.S. diocesan priest, taking a vow of obedience and celibacy.
As a priest, one of the things Jesus said in the gospel was that anyone, he said to Peter, you know, Peter said, Lord, we've given up everything to follow you. And Jesus replies to Peter by saying, anyone who's given up a house or a spouse or children will receive much more.
There is no easy life that any of us can embark on that doesn't involve a giving of oneself. Obviously, celibacy is a unique and a particular committed life. But, and I've said this publicly, in some respects, the greater challenges in today's environment is to be a faithful husband and wife, a faithful parent to children in an environment where being a family is very difficult. Society doesn't make marriage easy today. As a matter of fact, I think with many of the moral and societal challenges that married couples face, I'm not so sure that celibacy isn't the easy way out.
Father Ricardo Bailey's priesthood is unique for an African American man growing up in the South. However, as an African American priest, he follows a tradition that started over 100 years ago with Father Augustine Tolton. Father Bailey has hopes of encouraging other African Americans to accept the vocation.